Are you a prepper or homesteader looking to connect with like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own preparedness group? Already have a group? Well, look no further than PrepperNet. PrepperNet is dedicated to personal responsibility, individual freedoms, and being self-reliant. PrepperNet has monthly meetings in over 100 cities where you can meet and learn with like-minded people in your area. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Find us online at preppernet.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Survive, thrive, stay alive. It's time to get prepared with the Prepping Academy podcast.
All right, we are live. Prepping Academy radio show. I am Forrest. We got Tenderfoot across the.
Tenderfoot.
We're hoping this is working.
Yeah. I've got both my ears covered up, and it is just a different experience.
This is the first time we really produced our own live show.
Yes, it really is.
Is it not? And so
our first live and
what
with interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we've done that since it's just been us two.
Yes, and so tonight we do have a special guest coming on, Glen Tate, the author of 299 Days, a series that I've read. Anyway, how was your week?
It's been good. I actually went on a marriage retreat, and that was very good. So,
yeah. It was like the pastors at the church marriage retreat, right?
It was, but it was still really good, and me and my wife had a lot of time together, and we just got the kids back today, so we've had a whole 3 days without the children.
Sweet. So as you talk about your marriage retreat, I'm going to see if we can listen to this live. Is our audio working? Yes, it is working. It is. Okay. So tonight, and so we did a show last week on combat medic. Got some good responses. I think as we get going again, because our listeners were down a little bit. So if you didn't listen, we're so mad at you. But it was, I guess, because we kind of skipped a little bit in Christmas.
Yeah.
And so, but the first week, I mean, we get a good amount of people listening. I mean, almost double digits. Oh, that's fun. So, we do have Mark Goodwin coming up later on. We've got Glen Tate tonight. We got Scott Hunt coming up. We got some good shows coming on.
Be fabulous, especially since we're here.
Yeah. So you say you're a little nervous tonight. Can you tell everyone why you're a little nervous?
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
What did you say?
Oh, yes, that. Well, I'm a little nervous because of what is sitting across from me and not Forrest.
I just have.
He has a.
Go ahead.
He has his
it's a Glock 19.
Yeah, his Glock out right there.
It's
so I didn't know.
fully unloaded, so it is unloaded.
And
but it was. I had it on my side, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need this on right now.
Because he usually has a knife, and he waves it around.
I wave it around.
And so now, but don't wave that around.
Right. I am not going to wave that around. So, but the knife is here. It's not here. It's just a gun. But it's in safe mode. I just had it on. I was testing the new holster. So, and it's a sweet Glock 19. Hey, don't touch that, man.
Sorry.
That's the holster. It could kill you. Guns are dangerous. Mine hasn't killed anyone sitting there by itself ever. So that's a good thing. That's a good gun, then.
That is a very good gun.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, so how was your week? You had a marriage conference.
Yep.
And, of course, you worked at the church. I mean, you're a busy guy.
Yeah. I am getting ready to go to Israel, so kind of preparing and studying for that. But it's not just about me. How was your week?
My week was, I don't know, I've had a rough week last week. This week is getting better. Another thing that makes everything rough, you got everything going on with work, your family, your kids, and I had decided to study for the general test for my ham license, which the test is kind of coming up this Saturday.
Okay.
And cramming all that studying in, and it's like everything in the world that is trying to prevent me from studying. Yeah. Like things just come up. Like this show, I forget. I'm like, oh gosh, Monday night I got to change my schedule because the show on Thursday night I'm going out to eat with some people, and it's just so I need to take a day off.
And we do, because we now a lot of times what we've been doing is pre-recording and then posting, so that kind of throws us off. Right. Yeah.
And so so it's been studying for my ham test is just, the technician test was easy. I don't know why. I just thought that was the easiest thing I've ever done. And then the general, and it's just, there's a lot of crap that you have to, it's just nonsense what you got to remember. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's just nonsense. And they just do it, I guess, to control it is the only reason. Yeah. I mean, you got to do all these formulas supposedly on the map, and I'm like, whatever. No one does that except the nerds in the ham world. And there's 12 of them. That's it.
And I'm sure there's an app for that now.
Of course there's an app. There's an app for studying. There's an app for everything. But it has just been, I never get, I don't know, excited or anxious about anything. But, man, if I can just get this, I want to pass, too, because I got two friends, a guy named Bruce and Joe are going to take it with me. And if I fail and they pass, I'm going to be so ticked.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the worst.
And they will hold it in.
Oh, my gosh, they will. I mean, yes. So I've got to pass or else it's going to be miserable. So for the rest of my life, they would bring that up, and I just can't have that happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what's going on in my life. So tonight, everyone knows we got Glen Tate, and if you guys would have met me a couple years ago, all I did was talk about this book series because it was the very first book series that I read. And
you never read? You never read anything else?
I mean, in these. Dude, I'm gonna jump across this microphone. No, in this genre, in the prepping, and it made it so real to me. As a matter of fact, I think I read most of that before I even started at the Carolina Preppers Network, and it was like my first, I don't know, vision where I could see how things are going to happen. So once I met preppers, then you talk about, hey, the grid's going to go down, we're going to lose power, and all this kind of stuff. It was kind of my first vision into that. And so I loved it. I actually read the books, and then I actually then bought the audio books, and it made it come to life even more. Oh, yeah. So anyway, so tonight we have Glen Tate. Now, let me make sure he is available and online. Mr. Tate, are you available? Are you here?
Hey, let's take a quick break.
Are you a prepper or homesteader looking to connect with like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own preparedness group? Already have a group? Well, look no further than PrepperNet. PrepperNet is dedicated to personal responsibility, individual freedoms, and being self-reliant. PrepperNet has monthly meetings in over 100 cities where you can meet and learn with like-minded people in your area. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Find us online at preppernet.com.
I certainly am, and I heard about maybe failing a test and your friends passing it, and man, if I did that, the team would ridicule me. So I completely can relate to what you're saying.
I know. I am so nervous about that. I am. And so, hey, welcome to the show. This is the Prepping Caddy. I'm Forrest, and across from me is Tenderfoot. And and you heard about my reading your book series. And it was one. I mean, it's one of my favorite. And I tell everyone to read it. I tell everyone to read it. You know, we're kind of here in the Carolinas, and so a lot of people, read the 1 second author. And it's just one book. I'm like, dude, you got to read the whole series, 299 days. And it's a great series. And you have I won't say, was it a partner, would you say, that she couldn't make it on tonight? And I'm sorry for that. But aren't you in the middle of writing another book as well?
Yeah, and the, excuse me while I cough. I'm going to cover this up. I was raised right. It's Shelby Gallagher. We're working on some stuff together, and she's the one who's not able to be here tonight in her series, 3-book series. First book, the book series is called The Great State, and we're shooting for end of March for that to come out, and it's really cool. She's a single mom and in a urban situation, and didn't come to prepping like a lot of us did. I mean, she kind of stumbled into it, and she realized she's got to take care of herself, and then the prepping part happened. Anyway, but it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a female perspective, and I think it's cool because some men out there have wives who are a little unsupportive of this. What? Can you imagine that? I sure can. And, right? And so I think it's going to be one of those things where primarily what I'm thinking of is a guy can get her books, Great State, and read them and make sure that they don't have weird stuff in them, which they don't, because I've been reading them and in advance, and then maybe give it to a wife, I presume wife, could be girlfriend, don't know what, and say, hey, this Shelby Gallagher woman is not crazy. I mean, do you think she's making some sense? Because she comes at it from this totally different perspective. So that would be cool. But yeah, that's the Shelby part. So yeah, as far as me writing more books, we've got some announcements coming up. I'm going to be working with some others on their books, and I'm going to leave it at that. We got this whole. Yeah, I'm really excited. I got to tell you, and you're the first guy I've talked to about this. So I don't know. I don't think I'm a celebrity, but I guess it's kind of like I don't know, breaking news or whatever, But
you are my book.
I'm refreshed.
I mean, you actually, you brought it to life. Again, that was the first series. My story is I've been a prepper for 17 years, and I was a banker, and I knew no one that had this way of thinking, that did the things that I was doing. And so my best friends were people online on a forum. And the only way I knew them was like AK-47NC26. And that was his name or her name. I don't even know who they were.
Yeah.
But we corresponded for years. And finally, I started the Carolina Prepper Network here in the Carolinas. We got 7,000 members now. So now I'm really every day I'm getting part of this. But man, when I read your series, and it was cool because I do have to tell you that Tenderfoot across the table from me has not read your series.
What?
I'm going to throw you under the bus. I am. But I read all the books. I bought the first 8, and I'll be honest with you, I couldn't find the last 2, and I actually rented them through the library system. And then I bought all the audio tapes and listened to them again. And so
I'll tell you, you mentioned getting a lot out of the audiobooks. I completely agree, and here's a great way of putting this. The narrator, Kevin Pierce, is unbelievable.
Oh,
he's
he's
like a New
amazing.
York Times best-selling narrator. He kind of hounded me to do this series, and he really wanted to do it. And I said, are you kidding me? I mean, you're amazing. So here's the thing about those audiobooks. So the books, book 1 is about me. It's all about me. It's 97% true. So I lived my life. I wrote the books. There were a total of 10 drafts when all was said and done. So I'm pretty familiar with the content of book 1, right?
Right.
When Kevin read it, the way Kevin read it, the way he paused, the inflection, and all the stuff in his voice, I figured out stuff about my own life listening to Kevin Pierce read those books. I was blown. I'm getting goosebumps just even saying it. I remember where I was the first time. I was in a church parking lot. I was driving by there, and I stopped, and I said, oh, my goodness, now I understand some stuff. So anyway, if you can figure your own life out, that's a pretty good narrator.
That is pretty awesome. I just remember the first book. I mean, you set it up. You were, if I remember, I'm not going to. I mean, it's a big series, but you were an attorney, and you started thinking about. You started seeing things in the government, and you started kind of doing the planning. And everyone that reads that book can relate to kind of hiding things from their wife. I can assure you that, because you did that. And then what blew my mind was in the book, you really figured that the lady, I won't say your wife, I will say Grant's. And wasn't that Grant's? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Grant's wife.
Lisa.
She wouldn't go
Dr.
the
Foxy.
first time. Yeah, she wouldn't go the first time. And you even, it seemed like you even had a plan for that, or you made it up on the spot that y'all would come back and, in a sense, kidnap her, is the way I looked at it. And so it was pretty awesome.
That happened. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And one of your characters is a guy I've been trying to get killed off in every book he's in. His name's Chin. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
In Chin, is he in your book? I mean, the guy that, from the South Carolina?
No.
Or is it different? No? Okay, you didn't take... Okay, he's in like 5 people's books, and that's not you then? Okay. I mean, that's not him.
No,
okay.
The Pow character, the Korean
dude,
is my real friend. Pow, he's a dude. It's funny. It's a couple events, and he's come to him, and I was talking, and I remember I was talking to a pretty big crowd, and I said, you guys might think, wow, what a great imagination this Glenn guy has. He's 6-foot Korean gunfighter who sells insurance, and everyone's like,
that's right, insurance
pretty
guy.
Creative.
Yep.
And I said, here you go. I'd like to introduce you to Pow. And he comes walking in, and everybody was amazed because he's a 6-foot Korean dude, and he's a heck of a gunfighter. Unbelievable. Wow. So anyway, that's the other thing about the books. People say, wow, it's really realistic, and I think they're right. I didn't make a lot of stuff up. Now I'm talking about book 1. I project in the future, and obviously I can't see the future, but quite a few things have come true that I wrote about. But I'm not that imaginative, and I just described all these amazing people like Pow and a bunch of others, Special Forces Ted, who's a real dude, and all these guys, and everyone said, wow, it seems so authentic. And I said, yeah, because I didn't make stuff up. I'm not that talented. I just wrote about my friends. And, some of the dialogue in the books, people said, my goodness, that really sounds like real conversations. That's because they were.
Oh, really?
They were real conversations.
Right, what you know.
And, and so, and that's why it's a little bit different than some other books. By the way, I'm not knocking any of the books. 1 second after, everybody needs to read that book. It is a classic. It's fantastic. So read all the books out there and get educated and get thinking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your book though, it really starts off as the first few chapters you wouldn't even think. It was just Grant just going about his work and just kind of seeing things going on, which is kind of like the EMP in 1 second after. But I don't know, it just I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the one time it was the fight in the neighborhood when the first time he was driving the car. And he had to actually shoot his gun. And you made such a big deal in that in the book. And I'm like, wow. That is so real. That's exactly the way it's going to happen. Because if you ever have to defend yourself or defend people, that first incident that happens, it's going to rock your world. And people don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted it to be as I imagine it would be. And I'm a humble guy. And I'm not, Green Beret. Never been in the military, never done law enforcement. I'm just a lawyer, right? I don't think I'm that cool. And so a lot of books, and I'm not talking about any particular ones, it would be something like, the day that SEAL Team 6 kicked me to the curb, I decided, I'm like, whoa. I don't know any SEALs.
Yeah.
And I'm not cool enough to hang out with SEALs, so I'm not going to pretend to do that. So it was like, well, what is a regular dude who understands he needs to defend himself, he needs to defend his family, he needs to defend his neighborhood? How does this go about? And is it all glorious and fun? And you'll notice almost every time in the books where my character Grant kills somebody, he throws up. Because you know what? I talked to Special Forces Ted, and I said, he brought it up because you never ask guys, what's it like to kill somebody? You just don't ask. Just not something you ever do. And we got in this conversation about what happens when you kill dudes, especially your first one. And a badass like him throwing up. And I've had a bunch of other friends, a Ranger and another guy who's got such an amazing background, nobody believed me, so I'll just say he's an interesting dude. And they both said the same thing. And it had to be done completely justified and a horrible thing to do that they would do again in a second. And I don't mean to say, like, I'm not, Bernie Sanders here and, like, all violence is bad, because violence does solve problems, let's be honest, especially the kind of problems that are depicted in this book. So, yeah.
It does get easier when you kill people, though.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm not your lawyer, but you have the right to be silent. Maybe you should. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh my goodness. So let me ask you. I mean, I know this is a question everyone asks. It's like, how did you get thinking like this before you wrote the book? You had to start thinking. Okay, I need to protect my family. Did you call yourself a prepper? When did you realize, hey, this is I'm prepping for something bad coming up?
Wow, what a great question. No one's ever asked the whole, when did you call yourself a prepper and all that. Well, as the book describes, it was the, country boy upbringing that made me understand that the suburbs are a very unnatural place and very comfortable. A lot of people live there. A lot of people listening probably live in suburbs. There's nothing wrong with suburbs. But it reminds me, I used to have a saltwater aquarium. I love ocean life and stuff. And here in the middle of my living room is a sea anemone living. Now, how is that possible? Perfect temperature, perfect salinity, perfect oxygen levels, perfect nutrient levels, and it's not natural. You have to create a lot of really artificial conditions, any one of which, if it gets interrupted for a couple hours, a sea anemone in your tank is going to die, because sea anemones don't belong in people's living rooms, right?
Right, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so the suburbs are kind of an unnatural place. So I could see that from my country boy upbringing. I started looking around, and this whole setup just didn't seem sustainable. It didn't seem normal. It didn't seem like everything just always is awesome and everything works out. And then that experience I had where I watched the trucks come in the supermarket and realized what just-in-time inventory is. And I thought, holy smokes. I mean, I just thought there'd always be Doritos at the store. And then I started figuring it out. And then, of course, the work that I do and some of the people I know, some of the governmental stuff, and I'm not in government, but around it, observe it, and all that's the best way to put it. I started realizing, holy smokes, the government doesn't have any money, and they're pretty open about it. Well, they're not open about it. I mean, there are studies and audits that show all that, but and then I realized, my goodness, I know how people act when there's no law around, there's no constraints on them. Pretty rough upbringing, I'll put it mildly. And I get what violence is, and I don't like it, and I want to be away from it my entire life. But I understand that just because there's a sticker on a door at a Starbucks that says no guns allowed inside, that doesn't mean bad people won't come inside.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I get real life instead of the fairy tale that we've created of prosperous, America, where you can rely on calling 911 for the police to come. I mean, that's cool, and I appreciate that, and I like that. It's good, because operating without the rule of law is a horrible, horrible thing. So I can simultaneously say this stuff is comfortable and good, but it's unsustainable because it's so comfortable. That's why it's unsustainable. You don't see a lot of perfectly manicured lawns in the middle of a jungle. That's kind of my point. And so I could see, that's a long-winded way of saying I could see that things were coming, and the governmental interaction just kind of fueled that. And then hanging out with all these amazing people that are described in the books really kind of kind of sealed it with me. So your question, when did I think of myself as a prepper? I remember it was probably 2008, and I was just starting to acknowledge that this is how I was wired. And I was afraid, I can't remember if this is in the book or not, I was afraid. By the way, some of the things I put in the book and the editors took out that were a little too detailed. So I think in my mind I wrote some stuff. People are like, "No, that's not the book."
Oh,
because
okay. You did write it. And
yeah,
took it
my
out.
bad.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I was afraid to do a Google search for survivalist or prepper or anything like that, because I just thought that, not that the government's out to get me. I'm not a paranoid guy, but I just thought that it was, I don't know, it was like Googling, cannibalism. It's like there's something wrong with me. I shouldn't find out more about this. It's a terrible thing, and so much stigma to it. So probably 2008, I remember that. That election, that summer going into that election, I discovered Jack Spirko's podcast, the Survival Podcast, and that just made it okay to be a prepper. So yeah, it was a slow process. The scene in book one about going to a gun store for the first time. It's this icky place where bad things are sold and only icky people go. And I laugh in the book, and my character says, it's like going to a porn store or something like that. I mean,
right.
I haven't done, but it's like where there's badness and you don't want to be caught there.
Yep.
And I was like, wait a second, this is defending my family. This is a constitutional right. That's not pornography. So anyway, those are some insights. So I didn't come into this, being Mr. Backwoods survival skills guy or being a SEAL or anything crazy. I'm a regular dude, and that's what people can relate to.
Yep. So one thing I thought was really awesome, but one thing I kind of questioned, because you went into the gun store and they pretty much accepted you in the book pretty quickly, which was interesting. Yeah. But the other thing is, once I read that, I'm like, okay, I got to find the owner of a gun store and become friends with him. Because y'all staged, y'all did all that stuff from the gun store. Yeah, that hasn't worked out yet.
Well, the time it took to get accepted, I kind of compressed that time frame for purposes of storytelling. You know what I mean? Kind of jumped to it. But I got really lucky. I think, by the way, I should pause for a moment. I don't get religious, but God orchestrated all of this. The fact that a guy who's never written a book and doesn't even read fiction can write 10 best-selling books and have an award-winning audiobook. I mean, that isn't me doing that. That's God. But God put a lot of people in my path, and one of them was Chip at the gun store. And that gun store was an amazing, magical place, primarily because of Chip. So it was kind of unusual. I will say this, though. I think hanging out in gun stores is a great way to meet like-minded guys. And people ask me all the time, well, how do I find a prepper group? I'm like, geez, I don't know, because it's not like you can put an ad up on Craigslist, wanted prepper group. I mean, who only knows what's going to respond to that, and it's probably, I mean so you can't do that. But you've thought of it, haven't you? And you said that's a terrible idea.
Well, actually,
that's how you got me.
I'm going to have to apologize here, but we in the Carolinas, we have a thing called the Carolina Preppers Network, which are meetup groups, and they meet every month, once a month, at least once a month, and they meet in 19 cities. And
Holy
actually,
Toledo.
I know we got 7,000. Yeah.
Not Toledo.
Yeah. We got 7,000 members. That means I've got 19 leaders that have volunteered to step up and lead these groups for free. Some of them are in restaurants. Some of them are in churches. And
one in a gun store.
Some's in a gun store. And so, but I got 19 leaders to kind of step up and go. And I conned them. I didn't con them. I said, hey, you're looking for like-minded people. If you lead, then you can control who you're friends with, and you can maybe find you a survival group out of this. And it's working. And so, but that was the most frustrating part for me is that, I'm a ex-banker, and I knew no one. None of my friends thought like this. And so I threw up a meetup, and I put, Carolina Preppers Network. And I think like 7 people came to the first meeting. And I was so bummed. I was bummed because I'm like, Angie, one of my best friends now, came to the meeting, and I'm like, if these are the other people out there that are kind of like-minded, I don't want to be their friends. And the problem was that them, it was me. I'm looking for business guys in their suits, and you know what? I've been thinking about this because I've been looking at the economy. That's not who showed up. It was, a gun store guy, a farmer, I don't know, I call her a hippie. She's not a hippie. I mean, all these different mixes, and I'm like, okay, I'll do one more meeting. And then I started changing. But it was pretty cool, and so then it was a must to get people across the table from other people so they can know their names and meet other people and, in a sense, find out they're not crazy.
Right.
And there are other people like that.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing. You're not crazy is a huge thing. And it's funny, I'm sitting here listening, and I'm realizing that in the Carolinas, what you just described is entirely possible. I mean, you've done it, right? So we know it's possible. I'm realizing now that my perspective is I live in communist-held territory here. And, I mean, it is a different world. So I was kind of thinking the whole world was like that. But, I mean, this is just a reason for, people to either live in Carolina or move there.
Oh, yeah. So you live in Washington, is that right, or somewhere?
I do, yeah.
Okay,
Washington State.
Yeah, that's the readout, though, isn't it? Oh, is it? The readout's not helping anything?
Eastern Washington. Yeah, Eastern Washington's a readout. And Western Washington is pretty much Seattle.
Oh, yeah,
and
okay, yeah.
Off the charts liberal. I mean, there's different ways of measuring liberal, and sometimes we win, and sometimes San Francisco does. Kind of a contest I don't want to win. But
right.
Wow. So it's amazing here. It's so different, and that might be one of the other things about the books that people found kind of amazing was they'll say, "Are you serious? I mean, is this for real? Is it that bad there?" And that's what Facebook is for, News story about Seattle doing something insane, and I say things like, "Yeah, I wasn't kidding."
Right.
But I mean, if you live in a good part of the country, good for you. Consider yourself lucky, and guess what? All the bad things that are going to happen in a collapse are going to happen in your area too. So, it's not enough to say, well, I live in Texas, so I got nothing to worry about. No, you do. You got just as much. I mean, probably better people, probably higher odds of surviving because you've got like-minded people who, are, well, they're Texans or Carolinians or something like that. But, yeah, you're not out of the woods. And by the way, even if you've got a great place, great area, super good people, bad people are going to come to your area, right? Because you've got stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you got that problem too. So no place is immune, but some places have a head start, and I'd say the South and the Mountain West. And surprisingly enough, parts of New England, the rural parts of New England, I'm pretty impressed with, to be honest. And so anyway, good on you guys, and that is a testament to, I don't know, a lot of common sense people. It's funny you were mentioning you didn't know who'd show up, and your initial thought was, where are the business people, and then it was farmers and gun guys. And I bet now you're like, well, that's good. I need farmers and gun guys. I don't need MBAs, right?
Yeah, no kidding. My best friend's a lawyer. You know what I'm talking about. And I pretty much, I tell him all the time, I said, if something happens, you're really useless to me. He goes, but right now, if I get a speeding ticket, you're the number one guy, but
well, Glenn,
well, that's one of the things. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Glenn, because you're about. I'll let me finish that. You finish that thought, and then I'll go into my question. This is Tenderfoot.
Well, one of the things that happens in the books is that people from all kinds of walks of life end up having skills they can contribute. Now, that's not universally true. There are a lot of dirtbags that have nothing to offer, and all of that. But the idea that lawyers are going to do law and, I don't know, mechanics are only going to work on cars, or, I don't know, fill in the blank, electricians are only going to work on electrical projects, is going to break down because, take the electrician example, there may not be any electrical projects going on, right? And so the people have to use the skills they have. And some things are transferable. For example, as much as people don't like lawyers, we are able to problem solve and be persuasive and kind of be political in the good sense of the word, as in getting people together, not, being partisan and dumb like most politicians are. By the way, I'm around politicians all the time. The more you know them, the less you like them, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So, but,
same with lawyers, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't hang out with lawyers. It's funny.
Did you hear?
No,
so
I agree.
You're saying all these good things about a lawyer, and I think what's happening, and don't get mad at me, you're just kind of convincing yourself that you're going to be they're going to be important.
Well, no, but
if you say it enough, you'll believe it.
That's a fair point, but that leads to my other point, which is take lawyers. Just pure lawyer skills. That doesn't get you anywhere. First of all, there's no courts, right, in this system that we're talking about in a collapse. So being a lawyer gets you nowhere, but some of the skills do. And then what do you got to do? You got to have other skills, what I'll call real skills.
Right.
Yeah.
In the case of Grant, that's leading and equipping and organizing a team that then expands and gets bigger. And so you got to have some real skill in addition to whatever your very, very specialized thing is for any of this to work. And that came crashing through. I mean, look at my team guys. We got a guy who works in a hospital. We got a guy who works for defense contractor, basically inventory and stuff. We got an insurance salesman, for goodness sakes, right? We got Wes, who's from North Carolina, by the way, Asheville, but he hates Asheville. He's from, is it Reynolds County? It's near there.
Oh yeah, yep.
And he works in a rental equipment rental place. You got all these people that on paper seem to have nothing in common and have all these different skills and wouldn't necessarily be really good at, breaking down doors and shooting meth dealers and child rapists and stuff. But guess what? If you practice enough, you can gain those skills.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. So, yeah, what was the other point?
Well, yeah, Glenn,
go on there?
Well, you've got all these people that you're already connected with. You've got your books. They're kind of loosely based off of your life. You're writing from what you know. But, we've talked a little bit of how you got into prepping, but how did you start writing about this topic with prepping and especially the way that you've written? You decided to write what you knew. They always tell you to do that. But kind of just, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is an amazing story, and people don't believe me. It's the Easter Bunny. Everyone's like, oh, no, this guy I'm listening to, he seemed pretty rational, and now he's talking crazy talk about the Easter Bunny. Maybe this guy's gone insane. It's the Easter Bunny, and I made no conscious decision to sit down and write books. You'll hear where this is going in a moment. So my wife, very reluctant about prepping, and I realized that I needed to have an explanation for her that would allow her to save face for the day when there's trouble, collapse hits, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden, in our garage, there's a ton of food, ton of water treatment, ton of radios, ton of guns, ton of ammo. Where did all this come from? And I can, go down one of two paths, which is, and by the way, this does not work with a doctor. I don't know if the stereotypes about doctors are actually true. You can't say to a doctor, hey, you're dumb and I'm smarter than you, and here's what you need to know. You didn't think this collapse was coming and I did, so go ahead and, you're welcome, right? Okay, that approach does not work. I don't think it works on anybody, but especially a doctor. So I had to come up with, as I say, an explanation, and I came up with the Easter Bunny story. And that was it. Honey, X, Y, and Z has happened. Here's all this stuff. The Easter Bunny left this, okay? Yeah. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know, honey. The Easter Bunny left this, and here's what we're going to do with it. We're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to defend the neighborhood, and we're going to do a bunch of other stuff. And since I'm a lawyer, I do, I argue motions and jury trials and stuff. I present information. So I thought, well, I'll write some bullet points. And so on a Post-it note, I wrote out some bullet points about why I prepared, what I did to do with it. And that got to be a page of bullet points on a computer. Then a couple pages, and I looked at this and I said, this is a great, if you don't mind me saying, a great explanation about why to prep and how to prep and what to do with it once a collapse hits. And I thought, well, maybe some other people could, appreciate this. You were mentioning an online community. I'm on this survival podcast. Don't have time to be on anymore, which is too bad because I love those guys. But I thought, I'm going to write up one chapter. I didn't even think of it as a chapter then. I didn't even know what a chapter was. Well,
right.
Seriously, I don't read fiction. More on that in a moment. It's pretty amazing because I read legal stuff all day long, and I'm tired of reading. I want to come home and not read. I want to, put AR-15s together, right? I mean, like a normal person does, right?
Right.
So, so I thought, well, I'll put this up on the Survival Podcast, and it'll be the Easter Bunny speech. It'll be me giving this speech to my reluctant wife. So I started writing it. I went, wow, this is a great explanation, Steph. And I said, well, I need to write a chapter about why I'm like this and why she's like this. So there were a couple more. I just kept writing and writing. And it wasn't until I didn't even know the point at which this happened that I said, well, this could be like a book and stuff. And I'm not even kidding you. That's kind of what was going through my mind. The whole thing about I don't read fiction and don't even know how it works, here's an illustration of that. When I decided that I was going to put this up on the Survival Podcast, just do a post, I said, well, I know how to write legal briefs all day long, and I don't know how to write fiction. So I go over to the bookcase, and I pull out, some paperback novel or whatever that my wife had, and I open it up to see if the commas go inside the quote marks or outside the quote marks. That's how little I knew. Because I was like, okay, I know how I do this in a legal brief, but nobody wants to read a legal brief. Trust me.
Right.
I don't want to read legal briefs. And so I started putting this together, and then it flowed. I mean, I couldn't stop writing. It's the hardest thing to describe. I would get up usually between 3 and 4 in the morning. My record was 1:40 a.m. I would just pop out of bed. I had a character. I had a storyline. I had sometimes a whole book charted out in my mind, and I would just go and start writing. My wife didn't know I was writing this book for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Until it was accepted for publication. Yeah, that was an interesting conversation, by the way.
So she didn't know that you were a prepper, and she didn't know you were a writer.
Yeah. Oh,
she's like, who are you?
Yeah. So we're on vacation, and I got a 10-book publishing deal, which blew my mind. I didn't think anyone would ever read this. And then I realized, well, somebody somewhere is going to buy a book. Like maybe somebody is on Amazon and they're like late at night and they're falling asleep and their hand like falls onto the buy it now button. That's pretty much what I thought it would take for somebody to buy stuff. Because again, I'm not a SEAL. I'm not cool. I mean, why is anyone going to read this? I thought it was good because it was about my life. So of course I thought it was good. But I said, well, I'm just biased. So I realized, oh my goodness, somebody's going to buy this book. I don't know, there's going to be a 1099. That's kind of something that you can't really hide from your wife. I'm pretty good at hiding a lot of stuff. I have not figured out how to hide that one yet.
No.
So, so then I told her, I said, hey, baby, I did something. And she goes, well, what'd you do? And I said, the odds of getting a book published, it's like 1 in 1,000. I just made that up. I don't know what it really is. She goes, oh, did you get a book published? And I go, I got 10. She went, what? I said, and you're in them. And you're in them. She goes, oh, what's it about? I said, the collapse of the United States. And things got really quiet after that. And really quiet. Yeah, that's the other crazy thing. Everyone's like, yeah, you don't do that. You don't write all 10. And actually, it was all 9, and then I ended up writing the 10th book. We compressed the 10 books into 9 to give them more substance, for them to be bigger books with more pages, more story. And then ended up writing the 10th book. I'll just call it 10 books. I wrote the whole thing start to finish, and then sent it to a publisher, which apparently is not what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And
yeah.
I just did it because I couldn't stop writing. I'd go in the morning and I'd write. And then all of a sudden, my butt would
and she thought you were working.
Oh yeah. Well, I was just not on law, and I would say, oh my goodness, and I realized I've been sitting there for 3 or 4 hours. I get hungry and stuff, and then the flood of ideas after I spent that time writing that morning. The flood of ideas. I had a little notebook. I had these little scraps of paper at the gym. I would go then and work out, with the little golf pencils. I don't know what the golf pencils were there for, but and I would just I have several gallon Ziploc bags full of little sheets of paper from that gym where I would write down story ideas or quotes and all this. My mind would not stop working on this, and it went on for years that I would do this, and it just kept getting bigger and better and more integrated, making sure that it's something as simple as first names, right? How hard could that be? There's over 350 named characters. I actually had to create a table, and I'd change a name because variety of reasons, and I'd have to go and change it throughout the whole thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of little connections that have to be made.
Well, I'm mad at you. Because I had to get pancakes in my preps.
Nice.
I mean, who thought about getting pancakes in the preps? And that was like y'all's big treat, was to have pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
And that just really, so now I do have, and I have powdered milk and pancakes and all in there because of that book. And I'm like, darn it, beans and rice, and now I got to have pancakes.
So how long was it before you even I guess got it to publishing? I mean, how long were you writing before you kind of sent it off?
Yeah, that was about 2.5 years, and quite honestly, I didn't really keep track of time, so that's an estimate. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I bill by a 1/10 of an hour increment, and I had no idea whether it was months or years, which is weird, I know. But anyway, and so it was about it, and then it was all done, and I did several edits of the whole thing together and tightened it up, and then got a hold of Prepper Press, and that's the only publisher I ever contacted, and they said, we'd like to publish this, and I could not believe it.
Wow.
And then they produced it lickety split. The editing they do is amazing, which is why I'm going to do more stuff with them. More on that in a moment. And it just took off. And then it was that first interview on Jack Spirko's podcast, and he tells the funny story. It's exactly true. It's exactly what happened. So I'm a moderator on his podcast or on his forum, and so I had a cell phone number. I said, hey, Jack, this is my real name, Glenn. It's not obviously my real name. And I said, so I'm going to write a book, and can I be on your show? And he was polite about it, but it was hilarious. I could tell the tone of his voice and his voice. And he goes, yeah, well, when you actually write the book, why don't you go ahead and get a hold of me? He said it nicer than that. He's a Texan, he's a polite guy. But that was pretty much it. And so, and as he tells the story, I don't know, a year or two go by, and then all of a sudden I call up and I say, it's going to be published here, the dates. It's a 10 book thing, and blah, blah, blah. And he couldn't believe it. And so he put me on the show. And then on the show, all these folks know me as Heavy G, which was my forum name. And this guy that they've interacted with writing this book series. And then that initial, set of orders basically for the book then made the Amazon algorithm go bananas. It's like, holy sweet, we got something on our hands here. The algorithm said, and then it started pushing.
What is this
stuff,
genre?
And then it got bigger and bigger. Yeah, exactly. What's this all about?
Yeah.
And so that's how it happened. I'd love to tell you that I'm brilliant and stuff, but that is just not the case.
Well, one other thing about your book, and then we can move on to what you're doing now and maybe in the future, is I loved even your wife. I mean, in the story, Grant's wife, I think her name was Lisa. You brought her to the retreat, and she's starting to look, and she's starting over time to realize, oh my gosh, you've been planning this. This is going to save our life. Our family's going to be safe. and it was like it's fine, and she was kind of noticing all this stuff and not really accepting it in a sense. I think she thought she was still going to go back home, and then finally at one moment, it was like, I don't know, a couple scenes, and it finally clicked with her, like, oh my gosh, you saved our life. This is our new life. Thank you very much. And I waited for that so long for you to get to that in the book, and it finally came. And when it did, we're like, yeah! It was like the angels of heaven sung.
Exactly.
And I can imagine that's going to happen if there is a grid down or crap hits the fan. That's exactly what's going to happen to a lot of wives. That very thing.
Oh, exactly.
Because and to a lot of husbands, because we have a lot of women preppers as well.
Okay, and just friends and stuff like that.
Yep. So, and Travis, Tenderfoot and I are lucky. Tenderfoot and I are lucky. Our wives are all into this, and we actually went to like a holistic medicine and class this past weekend together, and so we're lucky. But there's some people out there that just they don't get it. Travis, quit moving my pen.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. We've got 10 minutes left. So, but okay, the wife and her. I mean, how does your wife feel now? Does she still think you're crazy?
Yeah, a little bit. I think. And it's disappointing. I don't mean to get heavy on everybody, but Noah, right? He's building this boat, and everyone's like, "You're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy." And his wife was supportive, and that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, the rest of the world can tell me I'm crazy. I don't really care about what the rest of the world thinks. So it's kind of hard. I'm going to be really honest. It's hard.
Yeah. Now, my kids are on board, too.
That is key.
So we, everyone lives their own little prepping life. I mean, everyone has their little book that they can write about their family. My family thinks I'm crazy. Except my wife's family thinks I'm the smartest guy. Well, I am. No, but they think. I mean, they're into it. My family, doesn't have anything to do with it. So what is going on with Glen Tate since 2014? And I think that was about the last time you published your last book. So what's going on between 14 and now, and then what's on the future for Glen Tate?
Yeah, what's going on now is that I'm re-energized.
Okay.
And there'll be some stuff that will be announced and that'll make a lot of sense about why that is. But I'm re-energized. I'm reactivated. And nothing about the experience writing books is bad. I don't mean to, say like, oh, I got, really mad at the world or it was too much. And none of that is all positive. But, it's like anything else. You got to get re-energized. Here's something to keep in mind. I'm not complaining. Everybody listening right now works really hard. And because if you're a prepper, you got a day job and you're prepping, right? Well, I'm the same way. I got this law job. And, it's kind of demanding. It's just a law job. Doing all this other stuff. I'm prepping. That's the other thing. It's not just like talking about this stuff. I mean, it's like vacuum sealing pizza dough mix. That's based on a true story last night. So, I mean, I'm out doing this. So, it was a ton of work, and I got tired. I'm not super young anymore, and anyway, so I'm recharged. So that's the current thing, and the reason I'm recharged is some of the future stuff. Details will be coming out. I'm going to be co-authoring some books that take place in different parts of the country. And so this isn't, a continuation of my series because in a lot of ways, I think the series had a nice, neat sort of ending. I don't want to be the guy who does 57 sequels and it starts getting weird. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm at the age where Happy Days was on when I was, a kid. And the series was going downhill and needed stuff. I remember Fonzie, jump the shark, that's where the phrase comes from. He gets on this jet ski or whatever it was back then, water ski, and he jumps over a shark. And it just got stupid and weird, you know what I mean? And to get ratings, and I don't want to do that. So so going to be working with folks that are describing the same kind of situation in different parts of the country. I've never lived in, I've never lived in the Carolinas. Let's use your place as an example. So I'm not going to write a series and be saying stupid stuff that's wrong, like, this town's next to this other town, or just not knowing the area. By the way, you guys have Francis Marion, who is the you had him back 250 years ago. He's the namesake for the Marion Farm, by the way. I have a portrait of Francis Marion, actually. He's a hero of mine, the Swamp Fox guerrilla guy in the Revolutionary War. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's going to be partnering with folks in other regions who have done this stuff. Thorough edits by me, writing a little bit, but it's not my story. There are a lot of other good stories. You were just mentioning earlier, everybody's got their story. There's so many good stories out there. And just because it's not my life doesn't mean it's not a good story, right? I mean, and so that's what I'm going to be doing with that. And another thing I'm excited about is a nonfiction book, but it's in the same thing. And it's going to be with Shelby Gallagher, and we don't know what it's called yet, but I jokingly call it "Don't Dare Call It a Cookbook," because it's about the food element of preps, and it's not like recipes. Because that's great, and that's part of it, but it's like how to plan what kind of food you're going to store,
right? How to soak your beans, Yeah,
not just beans. Include spices, all those kinds of. I've learned, like how to vacuum seal and little things are actually a big deal. Don't buy a 50-pound bag if you can avoid it, because it makes a huge mess, and then rats come around and stuff. All kinds of stuff. Then the energy part, like how you cook this stuff. There are a lot of preppers that have a ton of beans and rice and, like, no way to cook it. And you can't just take a handful of dry pinto beans and, like, swallow them and expect good things to happen, right? So, right?
Right, yeah.
When all that swells up in there. And so it's about, battery banks and solar stuff and cooking over a fire. I have a homeless friend. People think I'm crazy, but he's a friend of mine. He's not an alcoholic. He just chooses to live in the woods in his own makeshift way. He's not a criminal. He's a really nice guy. And I've watched how he does stuff, and he'll be part of this. So how you cook stuff.
Right.
So it's, as I say, it's the entire food element of prepping, along with some tasty recipes, and couponing and where to get food and how to do it and all kinds of stuff. So that'll be a nonfiction thing that I'm really excited about, because that's something that's going to put information, life-saving information in people's hands. So you can see how I'm really energized. Just like you can just tell from my voice. I just like, this book and this book and this book. So that's just going to be going on. So Glen Tate's back.
Glen, we got
back in the game.
3 minutes left.
Yes.
We got. And can you tell us how to get up with you? How to keep track of, everything you're doing? If you got URLs or Facebook pages that you'll, kind of release that information. Can you give that to us?
You bet. Best thing to do is go on the website 299days.com. And there's this thing you can click onto our email list. We don't sell email lists. We don't give them to the government. We don't, it's just us. It's locked down on my server. You can get email updates. We send them out very rarely. I have to have something to say, because that's the only time people read stuff, right? Is if, oh my God, I haven't heard from this guy in 6 weeks. Maybe it's important. So that would be updates on books and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of Facebook, except it's run by a bunch of communist idiots. But, a couple posts every day to get stuff out. There's Twitter and Instagram, but to be quite honest, that's not my thing. I'm in my late 40s. I'm not, I'm not a millennial. But yeah, the website and the email stuff, and then the Facebook, keeping up with it. On the website, you'll see all the podcasts I've been on, and I don't know, I'm up to like 150 episodes, and
wow.
There's some interest. I think it's interesting, but a lot of good topics are covered. Substantive topics, not just how'd you write the book, which is an important topic. But hey, tell me about battery banks, that kind of stuff. So there's that. So those are the ways. 299. You can just Google 299 days and a bunch of stuff comes up. And as far as getting the books, they're on Amazon or get them from your library. I'm not trying to make money on this. I mean, if you can read them at your library and learn stuff and be motivated to prep and save your life and your family's life, please do so.
Hey, well, Glenn, we are out of time. We've got just a couple of seconds left. Hey, thank you so much. Everyone go to 299days.com.
Thank you, Glenn.
And Glenn is one of my favorite series. I'm going to be talking about this. I hope to have him back on again, back when he releases some of these other books and some of these other projects. But thank you so much for taking your time out and of your day and joining us. Hey, everyone, you can catch us at preppingacademy.com. That's preppingacademy.com. Thanks for listening. Again, we do this because we enjoy it, not because we're good. We're mediocre. So we appreciate you guys listening, and have a good day. You got anything?
No, nothing else. Thank you again, Glenn, and thank you all, everyone, for listening.
See you guys later.
Thanks for listening to the Prepping Academy podcast. Preppers Unite at www.preppingacademy.com.
I just hung up on him. Hello? Yeah, I hung up on him. Okay, I got a better time. Hang on.
Has your data been hacked? Do you feel uneasy about the vulnerability of your personal information online? Were you involved in the Target, LinkedIn, or Microsoft data leaks? Don't know? If not, then pay attention. Join Forrest Garvin from PrepperNet for a free webinar on privacy and security. Gain insights into safe internet browsing, VPNs, crafting online aliases, secure emails, detecting if your data has been hacked, and managing passwords. Secure your spot today for this webinar on privacy and security. It's free. This webinar delves into comprehensive strategies for bolstering your online privacy. We've got you covered, from fortifying your passwords to shielding your financial information and mastering state-of-the-art encryption techniques. We're offering 2 convenient dates to suit your schedule. Reserve your spot now at preppernet.com/privacy. Don't let cyber threats erode your peace of mind any longer. Take the first step toward a safer, more secure online experience by joining us for our free webinar. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to safeguarding your privacy. Sign up now at preppernet.com/privacy. We'll see you there.